At some point, it's got to stop because almost every single day we're hearing about an increase in violence against ICE agents, HSI agents, people who are just enforcing the law. Today, of course, as we're doing this on the 24th of September, there was a shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. To that end, let's get with Beth Van Duyne. She's, of course, a U.S. representative. Always love having you on. Former mayor of Arlington?
Irving, Texas.
Irvine. Sorry.
Not
That's probably,
Irvine.
those are
Irvine's in
probably, those are
California.
probably
Irving.
probably fighting words if I say Irving over or Arlington over Irving. Okay, let's talk about what happened today because, Beth, at some point, this has to end. They're literally asking people who are crazy to show up at facilities and shoot and kill the Nazis or the KKK or the fascists that they're calling these ICE agents. I mean, I'm not going to sell it short anymore. That's what's going on, isn't it?
Oh, we have Jasmine Crockett, who, by the way, this incident happened right outside of her district borders. Basically, I'm sure there are people, who work at this ICE facility that live in her district, and this is what she's saying to them. Not just comparing them to Nazis, not just comparing them to Hitler, comparing them to slave owners. This is the level of vitriol that we are seeing coming from the left. They are sitting here demonizing our law enforcement agents, the ones who are actually protecting us, the ones who are trying to make sure that our communities are safe. They are enforcing the laws that, guess what, lawmakers like Congress members pass. If
Yes.
you don't like the law, why don't you do your job? Why don't you work to try to change the law? Do not attack, do not demonize, do not desensitize the work that our law enforcement agents do every single day that they put their life on the line. And you're seeing it. This is the third, by the way, this is the third attack on a North Texas ICE facility that we have seen in the last few months. I would argue that it's a direct result of our folks who are completely going after ICE and instead of actually working for them.
I could be wrong, but I think it's McAllen and Alvarado both had attacks on ICE facilities as well. But you're right. Let's break it down. You and I aren't psychologists. We're not psychiatrists, but we can use our brains and say, if you say that person's a Nazi and you keep on feeding in that person's a Nazi, you keep on saying that, of course it would be good to kill a Nazi if that's who they are. Of course it would have been good to get rid of Hitler if that's really Hitler. The problem is they're making false equivalencies and they're attacking people who literally would have fought against Hitler. They're attacking people who would have said, no, you can't be a fascist. You can't be a Nazi. We're going to get bad guys out of here. We're going to bring back a semblance of peace and some sort of tranquility. So, Beth, what do we do? Because we're feeding people like the guy who just allegedly killed Charlie Kirk, a couple of weeks ago. We're telling them it would be good if he didn't exist anymore. And then somebody who's nuts goes and does it. What do we do about that?
Well, first of all, what we do is make sure that the people who are supposed to be prosecuting these people actually do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what we're seeing is time and time again, his actions have no consequences. People are not being prosecuted. So there's this idea that I can commit law, I can commit violence, and it's not going to do anything. I can do that, and there will be no consequences. First, we've got to stop that. Second, I have a bill right now. It's the Stop Funders Act, which expands RICO provisions to go after the people who are actually enriching, that are paying for these acts of violence, that are organizing these acts of violence. These are not protests. These are people who are well equipped with arms, who are all dressed the same in military style garb, who have the same printed materials. This is an organized attack on our law enforcement. We have got to reach out and figure out how to go around local law enforcement, especially those like in sanctuary cities and Soros-funded DAs that are not prosecuting and are allowing these people to go through from riot after riot, commit crimes, and then releasing them. We've got to go after and figure out who are the people who are organizing and who are the people who are paying for it. Because as soon as you put a stop to them, I think you're going to see a drastic decline on these types of violent offenses.
Well, I agree with you, and I want to explain RICO. You know RICO, obviously, but I know it. I'm Italian from New York, so I know about RICO. I don't know why that,
you should
matters. So RICO basically is you get to go after the head of the snake. If there's a boss sitting on top of an organization that says, I'm going to fund and finance all of this, you go kill that guy, you go rob that person, you go and make people give you money at that store or that shop, and the boss isn't actually doing it. So before RICO, he could have gotten away with that, saying, no, that was that guy in the front line. That was my soldier. That was my captain. That was my whatever. Or Rudy Giuliani, who I've got on tomorrow, literally used that statute and said, well, wait a second. If Bonanno says go do it, then Bonanno is on the hook as well. So I'm going to not only take down the person who did it, the person who's above him, the person who's above him, and the boss, and he broke up all 5 mafia families in New York. You're saying we can do that with somebody like, let's say Soros is the one who's funding it. Can you say he's the mob boss, basically?
Well, I mean, look, like what will happen is you're going to investigate and you're going to find out. And you're going to get around these prosecutors who are refusing to actually prosecute criminals. You were going to find the guy who had already attacked a law enforcement officer who had already shot at police officers in North Texas at the Alvarado ICE detention facility,
Right.
who had been found to have actually done it before. But these people are not held accountable. But it's not just the ones that are repeatedly going after various riots. It is the ones who are paying them. It's the ones who are funding them. It's the ones who are organizing them. You got to cut that head off, or you're going to continue to see more and more of this violence escalate. I mean, look, if it wasn't enough that Charlie Kirk got assassinated, murdered in front of all of the world, at what point in time are we going to take this seriously and recognize the fact law enforcement is a good thing? They protect our community. We can have conversations. We should have conversations. But when you start labeling people as Nazis, as Hitler, as murderers, as haters,
Yes.
As slave owners, you're going to continue to see this kind of violence because people who commit it are justifying it. And we have got our own legal system that is not willing to prosecute these people. That is a problem, and it encourages more violence. When there's not a deterrent, when there's no consequences, what is the point of even having a law? And again, to these people like Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom and Jasmine Crockett, who are all part of the problem, who have been completely targeting ICE. You are lawmakers. If you don't like the laws, work to change them. There's a way to do it. There's a legal way. There's an ethical way. Get off your asses, get off your social media, and actually try to change the law.
Yeah.
But they're too wrapped up in the number of likes that they get, the number of social media hits that they get, and how they can fundraise off of it. They are obsessed with that. And it's not productive. It's actually destructive. And in this case, we saw 2 people who were actually murdered today as a result of it.
District 24, Republican, great state of Texas. It is Beth Van Duyne. Go to, I think it's vanduyne.house.gov, right? I think they want to go and check out what you're doing. Stop Funders Act. I want to talk more about that in a second. But you bring up Charlie Kirk. Because of him, we actually met in person, got to take a picture. We hung out a little bit. He was the guy bringing everybody together. Now, you and I are on the same side, but he was also the guy that would sit there, and I think that you do this as well. I know I do it on my radio show every day and maybe on TikTok when I do lives at night. We will invite everybody. Let's come and talk about it. Because the problem that I have, and I wonder if you'll expand upon this a little bit as well, the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk, allegedly, according to the FBI through text messaging, said, I just couldn't allow him to continue saying the hateful things he was saying. Anybody who's got a brain that actually examined what Charlie Kirk did in his very short life, but a very successful life, and his revolution will continue, is he brought both sides together. He didn't say one hateful thing that I've ever seen, and in fact, he changed some hearts and minds by saying, I will give you my gigantic platform to come and tell me why I'm wrong, and then at the end of the day, they would leave friends. So you've got an indoctrination on people like this alleged killer who thought he was doing something he wasn't doing. And Beth, maybe I'm just a bad guy deep down. I think the left likes it. I think the left likes that people misunderstand what you say and what I say and what Charlie said.
I think they actually try to actually take our words out of context, or actually put words into our mouth that we've never ever said. I mean, anybody who listens to debates with Charlie, the reason why I think the left found him so dangerous is he could actually reason. He would bring these people down and talk to me. Come down. If you disagree with me, get to the front of the line. Come talk to me. Prove me wrong. Let's have an honest intellectual debate. Why do you think the way you do? And he would ask those questions. There's one thing to be able to look at a social media post and all of a sudden you're going to adopt that voice. Right. There's another thing to actually have to defend that voice, which means you have to know where it came from. Can you defend it? Can you go beyond the first level, the second level, the third level? Why do you think the way that you think? And when you start to question it, that is where he was so absolutely effective, because he made people think. The far left doesn't want you to think. They want you to repeat. They want to be able to put the message in your mouth and have you repeat it.
Exactly.
God bless you. Think on your own and you start using common sense, because what you'll find is the lies they share with you don't make any sense. But that was why he was so dangerous to the far left, is because as he brought this out, and it was never in a hateful manner, it was always in, come talk to me. Yeah. Let's have an open conversation. Let's have a debate. There was so much strength in that. And you're right. He was able to change minds, change hearts, change souls. It was not about hate. It was about reasoning. And that, I think, is something that the far left doesn't want you to have. They don't want you to have your own mind. They want you to just adopt what they tell you, you memorize it verbatim, and then go out there and act on it. And unfortunately, what we're seeing them act on is more and more violence, more and more hate, more and more divisiveness, and it's very destructive. And Charlie was the exact opposite of that.
Exactly. Because of the freedoms that we have and that we love, and because of knowledge, it takes away their power. And this is all about power. They think they're monarchs, period, end of story. Like, I'll give you a quick example. Hillary Clinton came out today and is arguing that RFK Jr., Dr. McCary, Dr. Bachari, I always mispronounce his name, Dr. Oz, she had a problem with them coming out and saying, we'd like to know if there's a problem with the shots. We'd like to know what causes autism. We'd like to know why pregnant women are taking acetaminophen when Tylenol itself in 17 said, don't take our products if you're pregnant. She literally tried to say she was right and the establishment was wrong because she thinks she's a queen. She thinks she's the leader of us. And same thing with Obama, same thing with the auto pen, whoever was running the Biden administration. These people don't want people like you who want me, a Texan, to live free. And if I need something from government, I'll come and ask you. I mean, they don't want us to. How do we stop that? I think that Sunday's memorial showed that we're waking up in a big way. But how do we stop that? Because there's a faction of this country that really thinks they have to listen to every little thing government says. Hillary Clinton said that Dr. Oz is bad. He must be bad. Forget that we want to study autism, which is a good thing for everybody. How do we break through that, Beth? I think you do a really good job doing it, but how do we really get through to people?
Recognize the fact that it's okay to question. Don't be shut down. And look, I went to an Ivy League school, and I was on their alumni board. I interviewed students, and I would always tell students, get to know your professors, but don't feel ashamed. Don't feel intimidated not to question. When we see our friends, when we see, at work, be a happy warrior.
Yeah.
But do not back down in your beliefs, on your morals, on your principles, because you feel like it's somehow unpopular. I think what you've seen, and what we have seen since the days of Charlie Kirk's assassination, is more and more people recognizing the fact, I've got a voice, I've got eyes, I've got an opinion. I can share it. It doesn't have to be hateful. It doesn't have to be divisive. It has to be factual. It has to be prepared. And it has to be reasonable. But we can all reason. I look at my own son. My son right now is 23. He saved money to go buy a plane ticket, and he applied all on his own. He didn't even tell me, to go see, to go participate in a TP USA event in DC years ago. He was so proud of himself. He has known me, his mom and his father were all very conservative. He was always kind of quiet. We talked about politics at the dinner table, which, by the way, as a family, I encourage you to do. Talk about your beliefs, why you have them, what it means. Talk about it at the dinner table. Talk about that with friends. But he, was a little shy about it. I believe that Charlie Kirk really gave him like a voice. He made it more mainstream, more acceptable. And when he went to that event, he saw a lot of people felt like that. The more we make that acceptable and okay and not something to be embarrassed about, the more I think we can really start to have those open dialogues as a country.
1,000% right. It is Representative Beth Van Duyne, District 24, great state of Texas. Let's go back to the Stop Funders Act. It's obvious to you and me, and it's obvious to, I think, most who are watching and listening, that somebody is funding a pallet of bricks showing up where there's a riot happening. Somebody is funding, like BLM, which pretended that it was a black organization. Let's say black people. It wasn't. It was a Marxist organization that was looking to disrupt the nuclear family. They said that in their charter on their website. They took it down after people like me noticed it. These are bad people doing bad things. Soros, Act Blue. We can look into all of them. But how will it work? In essence, you've got years and years since the Summer of Love. You've got years and years of video evidence that this was funded by somebody with a lot of money, because people didn't just show up and burn down Minneapolis. That was funded, and that was backed by people like...
Who was bringing the pallets of bricks, right?
Exactly right. I mean, nobody showed up and said, hey, let's go riot because we're mad at this happened to George Floyd. They showed up to see if they could ruin a city, and it worked. So what do you do? Do you take all those years of evidence? Do you look at new evidence now? Do you do all that? How do you go and find who the source is, and what can you do with them?
Well, you investigate it. You stop taking these as one-off incidents and making it seem as if they're lone wolf examples, and you start putting the pieces together. Where did those information come from? Who rented what? What vans got rented? How did those brick pallets, get there? Who was printing the material? Who was paying for the weapons? Who was paying for the equipment that they are using? And how is this being organized? It means going and looking at digitally, forensically, is this information being shared? What are they doing to bring these people together? But following those lines. But what we've done in the past is we just use this as a one-off. It's obviously not a one-off. When you see these characters time and time again at different riots, that they have the same thing in common. They're all wearing the same outfits. They all have the same printed material. Who's behind it? And I think, being able to use federal law enforcement to work with local and state law enforcement to put those pieces together is going to be key in being able to figure it out and stop.
It is Beth Van Duyne, District 24, Republican, great state of Texas. I just love your steady vision about what this country should be and what this country can be. And I think what this country is getting to. I interviewed Lee Allen Baker a little while ago, great actress, and she was also the TPUSA event that you and I were at. And we talked about this at length. It feels like we're getting close. We're getting so close that they're killing us. They're getting so close that they know that they can't win the war of words, so they're going to do something even more dangerous. Can we shut that down? Can we? I know that we want to. I know that's not happening every day, but now it seems like there's some sort of violence from the left on the right just about every single day. How do we get to that end? It's a very open and a very broad question. I get it. But
it starts with holding people accountable.
Well, do you agree with me
it starts with
that
people
we're
accountable.
very close? We're very close, and that it's really bothering them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think what you're seeing, especially, folks who are in their teens and their 20s now are starting to come around that,
yes.
Maybe their parents had it wrong, and maybe, tiptoeing around how you really feel and stifling, your own opinions that you realize are stronger than what you've been told,
yes.
what you're hearing from teachers and what you're, maybe hearing, from the media, that they're starting to actually think on their own. That critical thought pattern is important. We should be encouraging that, not discouraging that, not saying, okay, believe what I tell you, not what you see. And I think, time and time again, we are seeing all of these threats that are coming out. Where are they coming out? There's a consistency. This is from the far left, who is absolutely radicalized. It would be like nothing more than to radicalize our youth, fighting back, holding them accountable, calling it out, continuing to talk and have those open dialogues, speaking common sense, and allowing these places where you can have this free dialogue and people to recognize, I'm not crazy. Yep. This is actually reality. I think the more people that start feeling secure in being able to have their opinions shared, that is where you really start having the legitimate debate. And this crazy radical notions that have shut down, honest opinions for the last decade plus will start getting, their opinions pushed out. I mean, you look at what's going on in late night TV. Okay, you're not funny. Nobody wants to hear your pathetic, radical, politicized humor, which is not humor. It's hate. It's divisiveness. People don't want that in their living rooms at night. They want to be able to have lighthearted jokes. Yeah. You're not getting fired. You're not getting, sidelined because all of a sudden it's political. No, you're not funny. You're not making money. You're watching, the viewers of your audience don't want to hear it, don't want to see it. They're sick of it. And the people who are actually funding your show are sick of losing money. Yeah. So let the free market in that case run and stop making excuse after excuse after excuse how we should somehow feel bad because we don't buy the obvious that are lies that are being fed to us.
And by the way, he showed back up last night, fake cried for a while, and then basically said, I'm sorry if you were offended by what I said. I certainly didn't say what you said I said when we all saw him say it. It is Beth Van Duyne, U.S. Representative, District 24 in Texas. Last question, and thanks for making time today. I know you jumped on last minute, and I always appreciate you doing that for my audience and for me. What are the chances of the Stop Funders Act getting done? Good?
I would like to think that's going to be bipartisan. We're trying to go after some of our, more centrist Democrat members. I think this should be a bipartisan act. I think everybody should want to get down to the bottom line about who is funding these things, why they're doing it, and what's happened as a result. I would hope that it would be bipartisan. I've talked to our speaker. I've talked to our leader about getting it on the floor. I've talked about to folks about getting it out of committee. That's the first step to be able to make sure it happens. But the more support we get on this bill, the more likelihood it is to be able to pass. So I appreciate you talking about it. You give me a platform to talk about it. And God love you. This is what we need to be able to do, is to give more tools to law enforcement to be able to actually enforce the laws that we have in the books.
Well, my show is always your show. It's always raised to a new level when you come on. So thanks for making time today. And I hope you get this done. Let's do this again very soon, Beth. So good to see you.
That's great. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. We're back after this. Stay right here.